Message bottle Amazarashi, I think that's how you pronounce it. So, a little thing before we actually start today's review is that unfortunately I committed the grave sin of losing my fucking notes. And yeah, so as a result, I'm gonna try and remember a lot of them, but I was like over midway through the album and then I just kind of lost the notes. Anyway, yes, this is a major, like it's a very long album. It is 26 songs long, all between 4 to 5 minutes, which is, it's like over 2 hours long, I think, just about. It's definitely a change of pace from what I usually do, which is usually less than 10 songs albums. I mean, there were 2 days where I made 2 EPs back to back, 5 songs each, so this is definitely a huge departure on that regard. But yeah, essentially this was described to me as emo anime music. Basically, that's how it was kind of like described to me. And yeah, it's mostly like rock, I guess. It's like sort of Japanese rock type thing where like 1 or 2 songs are more, I guess, acoustic, more like pop. I mean, this is technically pop rock, but it's just Japanese, it's like J-rock, J-pop, I guess. That's sort of I mean, I don't like saying that it's J-rock. It's like Japanese rock isn't necessarily like a genre type thing, because, certain genres are just, or at least they shouldn't be tied to countries, I guess. That's kind of like my thing with genres, is that they should have a specific defining sound, not from a specific country or whatever, because Japanese rock, Japanese made rock can sound western if they try, I guess. So I don't like describing genre like that, but I guess technically this is J-rock or J-pop or whatever. But yeah, overall it's a very consistent album in terms of sounds. It's pretty much like, in a way, if you've heard one song, you've heard all of them. Like, there wasn't any song that sort of stood out. All of them had sort of like the same registry, which is not bad. It's actually a positive. It's just that, it's very consistent on that regard. There's also always singing going on, almost like there's almost no time to breathe, and I find that really impressive, actually. At points, it sounds like the singing is just another instrument going on in the song, and literally, like, I was listening to it, and at points I was like running out of breath just by listening to it, because it's just so much singing, continuously singing, and that actually, I think, creates a huge impact in the vibe that the entire album creates, because it creates a much more, I guess, engaging, or I guess fulfilling album. It's not just, it feels more personal to a certain degree, and I think that's where like the emo part comes from, because, definitely like this is kind of like, sad, but it's not like angst like emo albums. This is more on the, like, summer is kind of going away, you're kind of like losing warmth, this is like an autumn afternoon type deal where the cold is starting to slowly seep in and people are starting to, go back to their lives and, being apart again. It sounds like that sort of sense of longing type of sadness, not so much like the angst that emo usually does or usually has. So in that regard, that emotion, that sadness, that's where I would put more of these emo than I would necessarily on the angst side of things. It's very like, it's a very subtle thing. It feels very, I don't want to say surface level, but it feels very like inconsequential in a way. It's very like seasonal, emotional type thing that sort of creates sort of this atmosphere where it makes you feel like you are in a specific season with specific emotions of that season type thing. So yeah, overall though, I would love the album to have been way more concise. Like, I get it, 26 songs, but I do feel that a lot of them, like, I don't think that it was necessary to have all of them here. I think it would have been easy to create a part 1, part 2, especially because, like, there's like 2, 3, 4 songs maybe on the album that are more like pop than rock necessarily. So, I think that you could have definitely, especially because the later part of the album, or the latter part of the album, I guess, compared to the first part is far more energetic than the second part. The second part, the songs mellow out a lot more, they are more pop than they are rock and whatnot. So I would have loved for this to have been maybe 2 different albums, right? 2 different parts, or like sometimes bands do things where it's like they release an album in like not 2 parts, but they release like 2 versions of an album where it's like, you have the good and the bad or whatever, and they create sort of like these not concept, but you know, like this just fun thing where it's like it's essentially two albums or like two parts of the album, but you know they like make it thematic or whatever. And I would have loved this to have been sort of on that same registry, because yeah, definitely, you know, I would have loved it to be way more concise. But yeah, overall I don't remember many songs, but I do remember an entire distinct style and sound that just kind of everything just kind of like blended together. It wasn't so much the case of me paying attention to every single song and being super engaged to every single song, but more on the regard of the songs were playing on the background and I was just vibing with them, and that was it. Like I was just enjoying it. I was, you know, kind of like you know, I was just really enjoying it. I was vibing with them. I was, you know, I had the songs on the background, and again, I don't remember any specific song, but I remember like the sound of it. I remember the style of the artist. You know, I remember the singing and everything, even if I don't remember any specific song of it. So yeah, again, unfortunately, I had way more notes than this, but unfortunately I did lose them, but that's sort of the gist, overall gist of what I wanted to say. So yeah, overall I think I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Honestly, it was really enjoyable, it was really solid, and I you know, I would recommend it for sure.